Gyms are full of people who think they are building muscle right at this very second. But the physical act of lifting weights does not create mass. It actually does the exact opposite. When you lower a heavy weight under control, you are executing a process of controlled tissue destruction, applying extreme mechanical tension to the body. That slow downward stretch literally tears the architectural structure of your muscle fibers, generating thousands of microscopic microtears. The body registers this structural damage as an urgent biological threat. It immediately sends a distress signal to the brain, warning that the current muscle tissue is too weak to survive the physical environment. This shows the activation sequence of the mTOR pathway. High-intensity tension forces its activation, converting physical strain into a biochemical growth command. This starts a 48-hour biological stopwatch. Muscle protein synthesis spikes massively at hour 0, working in overdrive before slowly degrading over 2 days. The physiological window for muscle growth begins the moment you put the weights down, using the heavy training session as the necessary starting trigger. With the 48-hour window ticking down, the primary environment shifts to the kitchen. The body has received the signal to repair and upgrade the tissue, but it cannot manufacture new muscle mass out of thin air. If you fail to supply enough fuel to match the metabolic demand of the repair process, you introduce a serious biological risk. A caloric deficit actively starves the mTOR pathway, bringing construction to a complete halt. This comparative bar chart tracks dietary intake versus physiological need. On the left is what athletes perceive they eat, while the right side reveals the actual high volume of calories and protein biologically required to sustain cell repair, making macro tracking necessary. Protein specifically provides the dietary amino acids the body uses as raw building blocks. The system shuttles these amino acids directly to the microtears, weaving them together to construct new, structurally thicker layers over the damaged fibers. But there is a strict time limit on this process. You have to consume, digest, and distribute these raw materials while the 48-hour elevated synthesis window remains open. If you lift heavy but consistently undereat, that initial biological distress signal goes entirely unanswered, leaving the muscle broken down. Providing the materials is only one part of the equation. Actual tissue assembly requires a highly specific physiological environment, making deep rest the most highly active biological state in the hypertrophy cycle. Many people believe that more training automatically yields more muscle. In reality, a well-rested athlete training 3 days a week will consistently build more tissue than an exhausted athlete training 6 days a week on 4 hours of sleep. This is the overtraining paradox. Pushing your body to the point of complete exhaustion, like an endurance runner collapsing at the finish line, floods the system with cortisol. These elevated stress hormones actively break down existing muscle tissue to use for emergency energy. This dual-axis line graph tracks recovery. When sleep falls below 7 hours, you see a direct drop in optimal testosterone and overall muscle protein synthesis. Conversely, deep sleep triggers anabolic hormones, generating the exact synthesis curve required to rebuild tissue. Physical soreness is an indicator of damage, not growth. True hypertrophy depends entirely on the environmental quality of your recovery. As the 48-hour biological window officially closes, the body resets and the focus returns to the active training environment. Because the precise raw materials and optimal recovery environment were supplied, the muscle fiber has successfully adapted to the initial stress. It is now structurally thicker and more resilient. This adaptation creates an immediate biological hurdle. The exact same workout from hour 0 is no longer difficult enough to act as a distress signal or trigger the mTOR pathway. To justify initiating another resource-heavy growth cycle, the brain demands a significantly heavier stimulus. This mechanism is known as progressive overload. You have to systematically escalate the physical demands to bypass the body's new baseline of strength. Adding a heavy weighted vest increases the mechanical load, forcing the newly adapted muscle to struggle and fail once again. This heavier stimulus successfully re-triggers the microscopic damage within the fibers, effectively resetting the 48-hour biological clock back to 0. Achieving hypertrophy requires a relentless, precisely tuned loop of escalating mechanical tension, specific nutritional fueling, and deep recovery.